Hi, Dave Wally here with the second lesson on music math. Today I want to give you answers for the homework I left you with. I want to look at other ways to play some of these chords, and I want to take a look at minor chords. Last time I asked you to figure out for yourself how to play 12 major, 9 major, and 4 major. Here's 12 major on the wheel. I started with an arrow at 12 and lines at 7 and 4. Then I found all of the 12 sevens and 4s that I could on the fingerboard. I noticed that there's marks off the end of the fingerboard. Those are strings that can be played open. And for the other 3 strings that I can't play open, I can get my fingers there, there, and there. On the guitar, it's going to look and sound something like this. A nice, bright, happy major sound. The second one was 9 major. I start with an arrow at 9 and lines at 4 and 1. I find all of the 9s, 4s, and 1s that I can, and I see that I have 3 strings I can play open. There are 3 strings in a row that I can put fingers on to cover the strings that can't be played open. Again, a nice, bright, happy major sound. Finally, I have 4 major. I start with an arrow at 4. I have lines at 8 and 11. I find all of those on the fingerboard. I see that I have 3 strings I can play open, and there's a pattern here that I can use to cover the other 3 strings. It sounds like this. Another bright, happy major sound. For all of the chords so far, I have not used marks further up the neck on the fingerboard diagrams, and it's time to correct that oversight now. Just a quick side note. This video series is about music math and not so much about the skills of playing guitar. That makes it suitable for beginners as well as for pros. What I'm going to show you next, called a bar chord, might be advanced for some of you. But I want you to understand bar chords and be able to find your own bar chords, whether you can play them right now or not. If you are a beginner, it can take a while to develop the technique and the muscle strength you're going to need. So you might want to start practicing now. A good teacher can help a lot, and hopefully your teacher will be much more skilled than I am. The best teachers are skilled at playing and teaching. But perhaps the greatest skill they can have is how to learn, and a love of learning new things, like music math, for example. Let's take another look at the 9 major diagram and another way to play the 9 major chord. On the diagram, I noticed that I could put my finger all the way across all 6 strings here, at the 5th fret, which is marked with a dot on just about every guitar. Now notice the marks nearby where I can press down with other fingers. These are going to cover the strings that are not marked underneath my index finger. Just like on the open strings, when I didn't have an open string, I needed to find another place where I could put a finger on that string. So on the guitar, it's going to look something like this. Index finger at the 5th fret and the other fingers covering off those other strings. I have my nice, bright, happy 9 major sound. It sounds similar to, but not exactly the same, as the way we played it before. So if there are several ways to play a chord, it's natural to ask, what's the best way? Well, some are easier for beginners, so those tend to be the most popular, but there is no best way, just as there is no best shade of blue if you're a painter. The different ways you can play a chord are usually interchangeable within a song, but they don't sound exactly alike, and they present different challenges and different opportunities for the creative player. As a musician, you should know that you have many different choices, and you should know how to find them for yourself. Start by filling out all of the numbers that you can find on the entire fingerboard diagram. If you are writing a song, Consider where your fingers are coming from, where they are going next, and most importantly, do you like the way they sound? Is this the sound you're looking for in your song? Take another look at all of the diagrams we've completed so far, looking for possible bar chords. My book, Guitar Chords in Musical Order, is filled with possible solutions for many different chords. It's available for purchase on wallymusic.com, where you can also find some free example pages covering some of the chords we've looked at so far. Moving on to today's main topic, I want to show you another chord pattern. So far we've used the major pattern on the wheel and we found major chords on the fingerboard. There are 12 different major chords because I can point the arrow at 12 different numbers. The next important pattern is the minor pattern, which is a mirror image of the major pattern, so I can just flip this over. There are two differences, however. First, minor chords sound different. Many listeners hear a sadder sound compared to the happier major sound. Second, the arrow, I'm going to erase it for now, because it only has to do with the name of the chord, not how to play it or the sound. The difference in the sound is very important, but the chord's name shouldn't be. I agree with Shakespeare. That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. However, I know there are some experts out there thinking the way we figured out the 4 major chord is somehow wrong because it's E major, not 4 major. Anyone who cares that much about how we name things, I can only say, please go away. Read some Shakespeare. Go ahead and rote memorize everything if that's what you want. But this video is about understanding. It's about mathematical simplicity and not theory. Plus, once you do have some understanding, and it won't take us long, learning the traditional names is much, much easier. So let's get on with what you really want to know, how to figure out minor chords for yourself. Start by drawing an arrow to any number. Let's start with 9. Just as before, draw a second line 1 space clockwise. In this case, it's going to be 4. And then draw a third line at 90 degrees, but this time we're going to put it on the other side. Skipping 2 spaces, the third line will be at 12. Now, on your fingerboard diagram, find all the 9s, 4s, and 12s that you can. Pause the video for a couple of minutes, and then we can compare answers. Here's my solution. I found all of the 9s, 4s, and 12s that I can. I notice that there are 3 strings that I can play open, and I find that there's a shape nearby where I can get fingers to cover those strings that can't be played open. I get this. It's a nice sounding chord. It has a sadder feel than the happy major sound that I had before. Also, I noticed that there is a possibility for a bar chord here. There's 2 strings that are not marked underneath my index finger, and so I can find 2 spots for other fingers that will cover off those 2 strings, and I get something like this. It sounds a bit different than what I was just playing, but it still works. There is yet another possibility I've never seen in any chord book, and that's why I like it. My index finger doesn't have to cross all 6 strings, 3 will do, and I only need to use 1 other finger. 2 strings, the thickest 2, can be left open. It's different than what everyone else is playing. It's a little more difficult, but I've found it myself. So what could be better and what could be more fun to play? Let's try one more. Start with the arrow at 4 and find 2 ways to play the 4 minor chord. Pause the video and I'll be back with my answer. Here's my answer. I found all of the 4s, 11s, and 7s that I could. Notice there are 4 strings that can be played open, and there are 2 nearby spots where I can get my fingers to play the 4 minor chord. Also, I can see a possible bar chord at the 7th fret. For homework, I'd like you to find 7 minor and 2 minor. You will have figured out for yourself all the chords needed to play just about every song you will ever want to play. But why stop there? If you want to be a creative musician, it is definitely worth figuring out every minor chord and every major chord. You might never need them all, but the exercise shouldn't take too long, and you will start seeing for yourself patterns on paper. Practicing them all on the guitar fingerboard, you can start teaching your fingers how to find the patterns directly. Your fingers can do the calculations for you, as if the fingerboard is a kind of musical abacus. No pen and paper required. That's the goal. You want your fingers to find the chords without conscious thought, so you can start thinking about being creative. Rote memorization gets your fingers to the right spots, but it is not that helpful with creativity, whereas simplified music math is. Thank you for your interest in music math. So long for now.